Okay, let me just get this over to Facebook.
Cool. Amazing. So that's that.
Just getting all the technicalities out of the way.
Get the technicalities out of the way.
We're just preparing to live stream as we speak.
So that's now live streaming on Facebook. What page is it live streaming on, hon? And I'll just share it onto Love Consciousness.
It's
Is it
on
Elevita Coaching?
Elevita Coaching. Oh, it's saying unsupported. Get request doesn't exist. Cannot be uploaded due to missing permissions. Does not support this operation. I'll tell you what then.
No, you're live. So I'll
Am
just,
I?
yeah, you're live right now. So I'll share it onto Love Consciousness.
Okay, let's do it then.
There now.
And turn my phone off.
So yeah. Okay. Here we are.
Okay, so welcome Donna Carroll to the Soulful Deep Dive podcast with me, Ella Vida.
Oh,
So
amazing.
I've been so excited to invite you on as a special guest, especially for my very first podcast. So it had to be you.
Yay. Thank you. Really, really
Because
appreciate it.
good, because for those of you who may not have heard of Donna before, Donna Carroll is part of Love Consciousness, and she's a quantum hypnotherapy trainer, and this woman changed my life. So that's why she had to be my first guest on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So I wanted to invite Donna to talk a little bit about quantum hypnotherapy, about the training that she's offering. And first of all, I wanted to ask, is it for everyone or is it just for trained hypnotherapists? Can you spread a little bit of light on that
No,
first of
I
all?
mean, so as you know, I've been teaching hypnotherapists in a more of a mainstream way for around 8 years now. And the quantum hypnosis has been like an element or a section within the kind of the more mainstream style of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. However, it's such a fascinating area of hypnosis, and it's so powerful that what I decided to do was to create a facilitator's training just focusing on the quantum, which means that we can dive much, much deeper into it. So the
Yeah.
course is a course that's complete in its own right.
Yeah.
And there are no kind of special requirements or special background, if you like, in order to come and participate in the training. And that's what's really exciting about it. So if it's something that you're just generally interested in, something that you've been kind of wanting to dive into, or you just really want to take a new direction in what you are offering, or become a facilitator for the first time, then yeah, it's open to all really. And so I'm really excited to be moving in this direction because, oh, it's just so fascinating, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember. So, for those of you who don't know, I trained with Donna
Mhm.
in hypnotherapy, and I also did her quantum training as well. And it was at that point where I love the hypnotherapy course. I love being a qualified hypnotherapist. It's fantastic. But as soon as we went into the quantum, it was just like the penny dropped for me. It was like, this is it. That's it. This is what I want to do. This is absolutely amazing. And not only was it, this is what I want to do, but um, this is what quantum is for, isn't it? Finding out what your purpose is, what your passion
Mm,
is. So,
yeah.
it'll have that effect on all the people that not only learn this, but facilitate this as well, to be able
Mm,
to facilitate that space where they can help people to find out what their life's purpose is and all the answers to the questions that they want to
mm.
ask about. I love to say the life, the universe, and everything. So I'm a bit of a Douglas Adams fan, but yeah, just to be able to ask those questions and find everything out. It's just amazing, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's I guess the idea of having a higher self or a
Yeah.
higher self, if you wanted to go a little bit more sciencey, You might hear it being called the super consciousness. But the fact of the matter is that we all have a more expanded and a more expanded version of our consciousness available to us. And it's always there. We just really get into our human experience and we are subject to programming and conditioning and everything else. And so it becomes a little bit muffled
Mm.
or something that's kind of way in the background. And we don't always acknowledge what we know to be true,
Yeah.
or even as simple as calling it our intuition. There's an
Yeah.
aspect of us that has the answers. There's an aspect of us that knows what's good for us and what's not good for us. And an aspect of us that I feel that it's always kind of pushing us, in certain directions, keeping us on our path. And if we
Yeah.
go too far off of path, we kind of get a bit of a nudge,
Yeah.
to get back on path. And so I guess, yeah, the reason why this is so powerful and so life changing for some people is that to have that ability to just really anchor in to that intuition, that higher awareness that we all have access to, and just really dive deep into really finding out what we already know, but bringing it through us in a way with clarity so that the programming aspect of us doesn't get in the way. And I
Absolutely.
find that really fascinating. And it's so fascinating to watch and to
Yeah.
hold space for others as they move through this process. And of course, then teaching individuals like yourself to see um, the profound experiences that individuals have as they tap into this higher aspect of themselves. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And can you describe, for those who haven't come across quantum before, or maybe not even had hypnotherapy before,
Mm.
can you describe how you would take someone into the quantum state and how does it differ from hypnotherapy?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's definitely similarities between the two. However, as I've explained before, with traditional hypnotherapy, we are kind of relaxing the individual into a very kind of sleep like state.
Mm.
And really, what we're doing is we're bringing them into the programmed aspect of themselves, the subconscious. Um, and because generally we're making changes from a programmed level. However, with the quantum, we are bypassing the program completely. So actually, what we're doing is we're activating the individual to not only physically relax, but actually consciously become much more aware.
Mm.
And in that kind of activation of the superconscious mind, if you like, um, all the answers are just there for us. And there's super clarity in that. So I guess the experience differs in normally under a more traditional type hypnosis, you can feel very sleepy
Mm.
and kind of almost like you could just actually drift off into, a deep, peaceful sleep. Whereas in quantum, it's much more usual to experience the body feeling very relaxed and you maybe don't have any desire to move around and things like that, but actually a much more heightened state of awareness. And it's a really powerful experience, just in general. And just all the different things that we can tap into within that space is what makes it really exciting
And when
and
you,
much.
sorry, after you.
I was just going to say, and you're so much different to a more traditional style of hypnotherapy.
And when you talk about the programming, tell me a little bit about what you mean by programming.
Okay. So if anyone follows the likes of Dr. Bruce Lipton, you know, they describe the programming being our programming years.
Mm.
So when we enter our bodies as tiny little babies, we are basically like tape recorders, just recording everything that we experience. We're not subject to a program yet. And we're not subject to a program is because we've not created our program yet.
Yes.
And so for the first 7 years of life, we're just taking in all of our experiences, all of the data. And what that does really is it creates a sense of who we are, what the world is, what this environment is, whether people are kind in general or whether people are cruel, what we're capable of, what we're not capable of. Are we good enough? Are we not good enough? Etc., etc. And when the program begins to settle down at the age of 7, even though it's not completely fixed, in a sense that we can't interact with it and change it over time, that it is a kind of a fixedness that comes in, an understanding based on this program. And, the longer we kind of just repeat the patterns, if you like,
Mm.
of the program, we almost strengthen them. And we get into adulthood, and so we can almost feel a little bit stuck in certain aspects of ourselves, such as how we feel about ourselves. Am I good enough? Am I valuable? Can I go for my dream career? Or am I just going to settle in this job that I don't like very much because I don't feel that I'm capable of expanding beyond that? So all of these things really come from our programming and conditioning.
Yeah.
And the great news is it doesn't matter where you are at, we do have the tools to be able to shift our programming, because that's all it is. It's not who we really are.
Exactly. So in that way, then people are able to shift their limiting beliefs, those things that we were told to believe in our programming when we were young, we're able to shift those. And what would you describe is the best way to do that? If somebody said, I want to get rid of this program, I need to be able to get rid of it, to reprogram my mind. What would you say is the best way to do that?
I mean, obviously, it depends on the individual and it depends on the program we're trying to shift. So, we'll give a very general example, I guess. So, lots and lots of people on some level hold a limiting belief of I'm not good enough.
Mm,
And they might not feel that they're not good enough in all areas of their life, but they may feel that it really is a big part of their programming, which of course brings low self-esteem and lacking in
mm,
confidence in certain areas. And so what we have to understand, first of all, is where there is a limiting belief, such as I'm not good enough, that was created at some point in the programming years. And normally, because it is a belief where a need hasn't been met, there isn't some kind of wounding
mm,
connected to it. Um, and so there are a number of ways in which we would approach shifting this program, but it would normally involve processing out whatever the kind of emotional element, if you like, that's stored in our bodies, and then reprogramming the mind
mm,
into not holding the mental aspect, which is the wording, of course, and the stories. I'm not good enough because of X, Y, Z. But when we're in a quantum state, the quantum field, it's much, much easier to very directly
mm,
move into dissolving these patterns. And that's because we're really just handing it over to our higher awareness, who is really guiding the quantum session, knows exactly where to find the patterns of the program, and also knows what other blocks might be getting in the way of
mm,
us actually releasing it. Because of course, often when we hold on to these ideas, there is a kind of a safety mechanism, a coping mechanism, a defense mechanism in place. And sometimes we need to learn a lesson, for example,
mm.
in order to really let go of something that's getting in our way of
Yeah.
becoming our higher awareness. I mean, we are our higher awareness. That's the point here. And what we're really doing is we are trying to integrate as much of the higher awareness that we are into the body, therefore becoming the highest potential version of ourselves that we have available to us at this now time, if you like.
Exactly, exactly. It really is fascinating, life-changing stuff. And to think that you can literally bypass all of that programming and go into what really is my purpose. It's that thing of, if I believed I was good enough to be anything, to do anything, it's giving you that answer rather than that conscious answer where we say, oh, I can possibly do that. Oh, no, no, that's not for me. I'm not good enough to do that. I can't do that for whatever reason, which is the
Yeah,
programming talking, isn't it? So it's
absolutely.
being able to completely bypass that makes it so special, I think, definitely.
Mm,
So
yeah.
so where are you running these courses, Donna?
So, as I said, I've spent a number of years working mainly from Nuki Therapy Centre, but doing it the more traditional style training. And so, what I've decided to do is branch out a little bit. And so, we will continue to run the odd course in Cornwall. I've got one planned in Hale. So just going to go down the other side of Cornwall and just offer it down there because Newquay is a little bit out the way for
Mm.
people that are in that area, but also moving into Plymouth, Exeter, possibly going across to Glastonbury, um, and then just taking it from there. Really, just having a feel in and seeing what other areas might want to participate in this type of training. But yes, it's quite exciting just to kind of spread out a little bit and offer it on a wider to a wider range
Absolutely.
of individuals. Yeah.
Brilliant. And do you think, as well as in the Southwest, well, you might be doing it online at some point as well? Do you think you might venture to go
I
online with it?
I will definitely be offering different training courses online. So one of the things about the quantum hypnosis is I've decided to make it quite an intensive.
Mm.
So it's over 5 days. There will be a few live Zoom support sessions on top of that, and it will accompany an online course platform, which will give lots of other resources, if you like, to really kind of strengthen your knowledge around the sessions and how to hold that space and everything else. But it's such a wide area that there will be kind of add-ons, if you like, to the training itself. And so what that will mean is if you've done the initial 5 day training and you want to expand your knowledge in individual aspects of um, the quantum hypnosis, such as assisting individuals how to download or activate their natural gifts. That will be
Mm.
something that we will go into in much more detail and depth as an add-on. So yeah, so initially it's really learning to hold that space, open that space, really help the client connect into their higher awareness, problem solving, what to do if you do run into problems in setting up that connection, asking and exploring all of life's questions, as you said, around purpose, why am I here, relationships, whatever really. Um, and also the healing element of releasing what is blocking us.
Yeah.
So that's what the level one training is really helping us learn how to hold that space for another, the connection, the questions, and the release of what's getting in the way. But there are so many exciting areas that can
Yeah.
be added into this kind of process that we are really beginning to dive deep into, and it's just so fascinating. And
Absolutely.
even though I've been tuning into and practicing this type of thing for a number of years now, I am still super excited because we're always discovering something new.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. And when you said about one of the extra things that you could maybe deep dive into afterwards, you talked about something which I think we've spoke about before, which was divine technology.
Mm,
And I've
yeah,
also heard you mention divine sovereignty. What is
yeah.
that? Is that the same thing as divine technology or?
So divine sovereignty, what I would say is, if you're aware to an extent that humanity as a whole we're moving through what I would describe as quite a rapid phase
Mm.
in kind of our conscious evolution. And you just have to look out of yourself and look around to see how many individuals are becoming more and more aware,
Mm.
wanting to dive deeper and deeper into themselves, wanting to discover who they are and why they're here. And this kind of wave of expansion in consciousness is sweeping across the planet. And a big part of that is us coming back into what is known as sovereignty,
Mm.
as a divine being. And sovereignty means that we are moving into the understanding of things aren't really happening to us, as
Yes.
we have experienced throughout our lifetime here. It's more that we come into the understanding of actually things are happening through us.
Yes.
And that means that you are actually a sovereign being. And it's kind of learning what that means and claiming your sovereignty, because nobody else can do that for you. But in claiming your sovereignty, really what you are doing is you are acknowledging that you are creating your experience of your life. Nobody else says that you understand that you are willing to begin to take responsibility for the things that you continue to co-create, and particularly the things that are not very enjoyable to
Yes.
continue to experience over and over again. Um, and the thing is, until we get to the point where we take that responsibility and
And we
acknowledge
learn the
that we
lesson.
are creating and that
Yeah.
we are sovereign beings and we have to claim our own sovereignty, we're going to hit a bit of a stuck phase,
Mm.
really, in our own personal journey of evolution. And so all of this training is really about that.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that we are sovereign beings, that we are creators. How are we creating? Are we creating from a place of consciousness, or are we creating from the programming and conditioning? Can we see our part in our creation? Can we take responsibility for our part in creation? Can we learn some very basic laws and rules of how we become real conscious creators? And then, of course, what we're doing as conscious facilitators is we're then holding space with this understanding to help other individuals connect up to the higher aspect of themselves and come into this inner gnosis for themselves, you
Yes.
know.
And it's so empowering, isn't it, to think that we have all of the answers?
Yeah,
That's what's
yeah.
really amazing. I mean, I know there's been a lot over the years, particularly more recently, about the law of attraction, which I know a lot of our listeners would have heard of and maybe even assigned to. And
Mm,
that, like we were saying, sometimes it might be a little bit uncomfortable to think, okay, this is, the experience that I'm experiencing, I'm creating. Because if it's an experience that you're not enjoying, then it's like, how would I create this experience if I'm not enjoying it? Surely I would create something else. But like you were saying before, a lot of that can be in the programming or the I'm not good enough. And it's getting
absolutely.
into those deeper aspects and being able to connect, to get people to connect to their higher selves, to really have that wisdom of
Mm,
how they really can create a better life for themselves without dropping into I'd say a victim mode, which sounds
mm,
terrible, um because something bad happens to us externally that we have no control over, then we do feel a victim of that. But it's taking that control, isn't it, of not control, but of you can choose to, in a way, how you react to that. The more you do the deep work and the more you have that understanding to try and align yourself with what you do want rather than what you
mm,
don't want. Or if it's something that keeps a pattern that keeps repeating itself, it's being able to try and take the lessons from that rather than being the kind of wounded person that just thinks everything happens to me. Because when we think that, then that's what happens, and so on and so on. Do you
mm.
feel that that's a similar same kind of thing as divine sovereignty?
I mean, absolutely. In a way, it's kind of each individual's responsibility, if
Yeah.
you like, not just to recognize their own creative abilities on a personal level. Of course, we want to manifest the life of our dreams and everything else, but this is bigger than
Yeah.
that at this point in time. This is a global shift between one way or one form of reality into a completely new system, if you like. And so if you imagine like reality and its like core essence being kind of like a geometry or a program, we could use the metaphor of, we all remember when we first got onto the internet and we had the old dial-up system, and then things get upgraded and we move on to like fiber optic, for example.
Mm.
It's a similar thing, but what's actually happening is as creative beings, if we're creating from the program, we're creating more of the old. If
Yeah.
we're creating from our higher level of awareness, we're creating more of the new.
Yeah.
So the more people that get on board with knowing that this is the case and do the inner work to shift from creating from the old programming to creating from their higher levels of awareness, the quicker as a whole, as a collective, we shift into a whole new way of being, of seeing, of experiencing. And yeah, a big part of that is coming into your sovereignty, because
Mm.
as a sovereign being, you are responsible for your creation. It has
Yes.
an impact not only in your own self, but the collective as well. And we're more powerful than most people acknowledge. As you
Absolutely.
said, it's a powerful thing. This is it, taking
Yeah.
your power back.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny you should mention that actually, because I was sitting, as I always like to do, sitting by the river this morning, and that was one of the things that I was told. And even though it's one of those where it's not what I don't believe, I do believe it, but it was just it was reaffirming, and it was saying, if you knew just how powerful, if we all knew how powerful each and every one of us really was, it would completely change the world for the better, just having that much belief and knowing that power within, and that really came through to me this morning. It
Mm.
really, really did. And I just, yeah, it's so true. It is so true.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we've got to begin to make choices to
Yeah.
take steps towards that. I mean, of course, we can continue to loop around
Mm,
in the way that we've always experienced things, the old stories, like you say, the victimhood and everything else. And we can choose to do that if
mm,
we wish to, but that's not going to get us anywhere.
yeah.
And if we make more empowering choices and we recognize that we actually, even though it's just me, you might think, well, what can I do? It's just me, I can't make a change. Look at the state of the world out there or whatever. It's like, actually, because this is happening on a level where each individual, across the globe has an opportunity to take that power back and say, actually, I can make a difference. And I can take steps and make better choices to create a better world. And all you have to do is start on an individual level. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
it. And it spreads fast,
Yeah.
and it is spreading fast. And so, as I've said to you before, I really feel really optimistic actually that we're going to see very obvious signs out there over the next couple of years that this is happening.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to say, when we talk about all levels, and I know you've spoken a bit about different dimensions and being multidimensional. Can you explain a little bit about what you mean by multidimensional?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, we are not just human beings, you know, and we have lots of different aspects of us, of ourselves, kind of located throughout the universe, if you like, you know. And one of the ways of describing the awakening or this global shift or whatever language you use to describe this rapid conscious evolution phase is that it's actually our human bodies that are coming back online.
Mm,
And so, what I mean by that is we've lived in a space where we've been very limited to what we have access to. We've believed that we are small, that we are just these little human beings that has no power or no control over anything.
mm,
And so, what's actually happening is it's the human body that is waking up. It's the human body that is activating and coming more into its highest potential. It's the human body that's beginning to access and open channels to these other aspects of self. And so it's beginning to remember, I guess, that we are multidimensional. We're not just
yes.
this little human being. We have all of this aspect. For example, when we say the word higher self, I mean, what does that even mean? You know, I like to say highest self,
Mm.
because when I say highest self, then what I'm directing my consciousness towards is an aspect of myself that is the most evolved
Mm.
version of me in this multidimensional system that we're living in. And so then I can retrieve information from the most evolved version of me. You know, a higher self might just be me tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know, for example. Um, so we're beginning to remember that we are located in different times, different places, and different spaces throughout a multiverse, you know. And so when we talk about multidimensional healing, it's really important to understand that if we do not help heal and integrate these other aspects of self, then we are not able to fully allow our bodies to come back online,
Mm.
to reconnect to all that we are, rather than being stuck in this little self mode,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's very important to just begin to comprehend that it's the body that's waking up, it's the
Mm.
body that's coming online. And what that means is that the body is able to reach, you know, through all of the different dimensional layers where we are located. And that allows us to expand in consciousness, expand in awareness. You might begin to remember past or parallel lives.
Mm.
You might begin to remember future lives. You might begin to remember yourselves in different forms than what we are now. It's all part and parcel of what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that I've had before as well is, what about if when people talk about quantum hypnotherapy and quantum healing, and you were saying about going forward, you might have a life where you go forward. Is there any way when people want to ask questions in quantum about what might happen in the future? Is there any questions they can ask about that if they're living these lives that are kind of past, present, future in parallel? Um, is there any questions that they can ask about their future? Would it become then like a kind of prediction or?
Mm. Okay, I mean, it's a good question, actually. The way that I see it and feel it is that, you know, we are potential.
Mm.
Okay, so we're really potential. But in saying that, I believe that at this point in time, we have incarnated into these versions of ourselves with what I call a blueprint.
Mm.
So, in other words, something that we have decided that we're going to bring in. You know, it's really important that we all have a very unique, different pathway, because
Mm.
it's a big world. And we're all kind of in our own ways covering an aspect of the upgrade, you
Yeah.
know. So everybody's kind of a specialist, if you like, in their own area. However, you know, and this is something that I'm still exploring for myself to come into full understanding. We have been subject to multiple timelines.
Mm.
And so it's a little bit like you've got a pathway, and the final destination's always going to be the same. If you
Yeah.
like, when we come into a 0 point, a singularity, a single timeline. But up until that point, there is multiple different routes that you can choose to take. Perhaps your human body isn't ready for that big jump yet. So you
Mm.
take a much slower, much steadier route. Perhaps you decide on a higher level that you want an acceleration in your consciousness. So you perhaps take a much higher timeline to get you there faster. And so when we're doing predictions, so in other words, when we're asking the higher awareness, you know, what's going to happen in the future, my understanding is overall they can see that this is where you're going to end up. This is your purpose. This is your skill set. You know, these are your gifts. They're a given. But things like time
Mm.
and route on how to get there, I
Which
think
is
that
it
that's a
is
bit more
root
flexible.
is root free will. That's the other thing I was going to ask you. When you said about we're all getting to the same, you get to the same point, but there's lots of different paths to take. Is that our free will, that we have free will
Yeah,
in that, but the 0 point is fate? Would you frame it
absolutely.
like that?
And free will is also a process of, can you come into a space where you actually kind of surrender yourself to the higher purpose. And
Yeah.
this is a big part of the journey, because when we have been living as a 3D consciousness being, we are very much service to self.
Yeah.
What can I manifest for me?
Yeah.
What kind of car do I want? What holidays do I want? How much money do I want? Etc. Etc. And in order to fully unify to the larger consciousness, the unified field means that actually we're giving up the ID,
Yeah.
because we begin to remember that we are part of a collective consciousness. And so then what happens is you surrender to service to other,
Mm.
and in service to other, you are making your decisions or your manifestations based on the good of everyone, the good
Yeah,
of
as a
all, the
collective.
good of the planet. And
Yeah.
that's a big step to take. It's a
Yeah.
big jump. And there's lots of initiations and lessons and learning and everything that comes in when you're making that transition. It's not just a one jump and you're there,
Yeah.
because we have to work through all the layers of ourselves that are
Yeah.
still service to self.
And when you talk about that, is that like the ego? Would you say that was the ego self, that
Yeah,
service to self? Yeah.
yeah. And we all have a personality.
Mm.
There's a kind of a saying is you have to come to the party as something.
Yeah.
So we come as a personality, and there's nothing wrong with having a personality, but it's kind of the selfish ego, the
Mm.
separated ego, the service to self part of us that wants to hang on to the ID, you
Yeah.
know, that it's all them, and they're the center of the universe, if you like, rather than expanding into a more unified way of seeing and feeling your reality, where everyone's equal. There's no one ahead or behind. Um, we have to let go of all the judgments, for
Yeah.
example, that we continuously make on others, because really all that's doing is highlighting the
Mm.
judgments we hold
Yeah.
within.
That mirror.
Um, and again, those selfish needs and desires.
Mm.
It's not to say that you can't have a life of abundance, because that's the paradox in it. The more that you surrender to unity,
Mm.
actually, the more abundant you will become. But you're just operating in a different way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm.
So when does the 5 day course start?
So the first 5 day course, which is in Hale, Cornwall,
Hmm.
at the Passmore Edwards Institute, which is a lovely building. I've done some work up there in the past. That starts on the 18th of March. As I said, it's 5 intensive days initially, where we give you all the practical tools that you need to hold space. You then have a couple of months period where we do offer a couple of live Zoom support sessions. And this is your time to practice and deepen your knowledge. And you have the support of the online portal with all of the resources to help you do that. To then hand in your end project, if you like, and then you gain your certification, which is a diploma in quantum hypnosis level 1.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. And that's CPD points as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. As long as it's in
Absolutely.
line with the type of work that you do, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Mm.
Thank you. And so how can people, if someone's interested in doing this, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I mean, the platform or the media platform that I tend to be connected to the most is is Facebook, and I am Love Consciousness, but you can also get in touch with me through my website, which is www.love-consciousness.com. Or we have a group on Facebook, Love Consciousness. I'm sure you can find us. And yes, we can put a little link below as well to make it easy for people to find. And, I'm always really, really open to arranging kind of a short informal telephone chat with people.
Brilliant.
that might have other questions, because I understand for some people this is really new and they
Yeah.
just want to ask a few questions just to get things clear and decide whether this is the right route for them.
And if they haven't had quantum before, what's the best route? Is there a way for them to have like some kind of mini taster beforehand as well? You know what I'm leading up to now, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess at this point we'll say that we want to try to make it available to everyone. Obviously,
Yeah.
I do kind of like my speciality, if you like, my what I specialize in is teaching facilitators.
Mm.
I kind of do that route because I want to pass on this wisdom and knowledge to more individuals that can then hold space for
Yeah.
groups and individual sessions. It helps it spread further, I feel. But we myself and Ella, we are going to begin offering quantum group sessions. So that's one way that you can try it in a group
Mm.
setting. It'll be done in a ceremonial style session, if you like. And we want to offer that in person, live in Newquay at Newquay Orchard. But also, I'm feeling that we've been feeling into offering that as an online option as well, so that it doesn't matter
Mm.
where you are in the world. If you want to join in, you can join in. So I'm sure we'll have that set up soon. The first live one is at the end of this month, and the online participation, I'm sure, will follow shortly after. And also, I know that you love doing the one-on-one quantum
Oh, I
sessions, Ella.
do. Yeah, I love
So
it.
if
I love it.
anybody really wants to try a one-on-one session to
Mm.
see what it's all about, and it's a good idea to
Mm.
try a session, then I know that you would be more than happy to
Absolutely. Yeah.
facilitate that for them. So yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And have you
Mm.
got anything else coming up at the moment as well as those workshops and
Yes, I
courses?
mean, everything that I'm doing at the moment is really all around the working in the quantum field, about holding space consciously,
Mm.
about understanding the position as a conscious facilitator. In other words, you have to have a little bit of wisdom or knowledge or gnosis in aspects like what is actually even happening right
Yeah.
now, like what is this awakening that so many people are talking about, and how can I best support myself firstly, and then when I understand how I can support myself, how can I then pass that on and facilitate spaces for others. And so, something that I'm offering for individuals that aren't interested in doing the quantum hypnosis is quantum space holding.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter what kind of space you hold, it doesn't even matter really whether you are a facilitator or not. We are all facilitators.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so the quantum space holding, I'm doing an introduction workshop in February, I think February the 20th. That is for anyone that holds any kind of space, whether it be one on one, whether it be with groups, whether it be spiritual or non spiritual, whether it be that you just want to know how to open quantum spaces for yourself and
Yeah.
kind of get a feel for how these spaces work and how it amplifies the energy potential, how it allows us through intention and clear instruction sets to connect to a much bigger, wider aspect of our consciousness. Therefore, the healing is deeper,
Mm.
more profound, and more direct, so
Yeah.
we can really direct it on a much higher level. Um, so yeah, so that's something else that I'm super, super interested in and going to be participating in a lot of kind of workshops, tasters, podcasts, just I just want to share the information really. And so there'll be many, many ways in which people can interact with that.
And I'd love to add to that as well that being able to hold that ceremonial quantum space is so powerful. It
Mm.
really is so powerful. And I know since Donna taught me how to do that for my sound baths, as well, it really does make a massive difference, you know.
Mm,
And I've had
mm,
so many more people come up afterwards when I started introducing that, just saying, wow, that was amazing. So it's not just kind of going in, sitting, listening to some sound, putting an intention in and a word, and that's it. It's actually being able to set up that space so that you can open it up and you can have that quantum healing going on. And it's
mm.
just so much more powerful for everyone who decides to participate and give their permission to step into that. So yeah, it
Yeah,
really, really is
absolutely.
something that I think is worth doing. Definitely, whatever you're
Absolutely.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, if you are already a facilitator of
Mm,
any kind,
yeah,
doing any kind of healing sessions, any
yeah,
kind of sound sessions, any kind of ceremonial set up
yeah.
sessions,
Even
it's
like
just,
women's circles and things like that as
yeah,
well.
women's
And
support
yeah,
groups,
support groups.
anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just a way of taking your space, if you like,
mm,
that you are facilitating and taking it into the next level,
yeah,
and creating that environment for a deeper healing and realignment to our higher awareness, quite easily, without doing, years and years of training or anything. It's just giving individuals the very basics so that they can begin working with these spaces straight away,
yeah.
and obviously if they want to deepen their knowledge on these things, there is opportunity to do that too.
Fantastic. Donna, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. Thank you so, so, so much for everything, for
Oh,
changing my life. And I hope you go on to change so many other people's life, which I
oh,
know you will. And so on and so on. It's just like the domino effect, isn't it? It's just everyone's lives will be changed.
yeah, that's where we're at, and that's
That's
what
the
we're all about
power.
now. Doing
Yeah,
everybody doing what they can.
absolutely. Donna, thank you
Oh,
so much for joining us.
thank you,
Thank you so
sweetheart.
much.
Oh, lots of love. Thank you, everyone, if you've listened. Bye bye for now.
See you next time.
Mm, mm.
Mm.